Welcome back, guys. It's our last one. Series 1 is over.
Finale.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
This is the last one.
He just told me it was. I believed him.
This isn't the 12th one.
You just said it's the last one as well.
I just agreed with you.
I was taking the piss.
Oh, I thought this was the last one.
No, it's not.
We've got 8 out of the time of this.
Sitting on 3.
Yeah, this is the last one.
We're only sitting on 2. We've got the
'Cause
second.
We've got one
second
that's
coach's
in
one.
bank from before in 2021, right?
Well, you're lucky, guys. It's not the last one. It's the penultimate
Let's restart that.
one.
Let's just start that again.
All right.
Welcome them back.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the last podcast. Yeah. Savagery.
Welcome to the season finale.
Yeah.
It's not the season finale.
The penultimate one.
Good work.
How's everyone getting on all right?
Not too bad. Another week.
Just checking my heart rate.
Yeah, you feeling right? You calm down from that little journey?
I really hate traffic. My top 3 hate things are like, you know when you pick up the phone someone and they can't hear you? Or you can't hear them.
Hello, you just say hello.
Or when I literally throw my phone across the room. The second thing is like bad Wi-Fi, when I can't work out why it's bad. And then the third would be traffic and wind. I fucking hate wind.
So specific.
Yeah, no, wind is for me.
I've spent many years getting that list together. What are your top 4 most hated things in the world?
Eating with your mouth open is pretty it's pretty gross, and you can just see like the churn, like a cement barrel.
That's up there.
Oh, God. That was horrible.
Don't ever do that again.
Oh my God. Mine's people that run to the front of the aeroplane.
Oh, the queue,
The queue.
because you're all getting on.
We're all getting on.
Does that get you seething? Just like sat there. Like,
Annoyingly,
bored,
yeah.
isn't
I
it?
should just think, why am I getting angry at that? I should just chill. When it's all the same type of person, they all look the same.
It doesn't make any sense, does
They've
it?
all got a folder.
Yeah, they print their tickets
Yes.
and don't have it on their phone.
Don't
Yeah.
believe in that.
Why are you, do you know what I mean? Why do you want to sit on that plane longer than you have to?
Unless you're first class in it. Yeah. But EasyJet don't have first class.
You only have fly easier, don't you? Ibiza and Mykonos.
That's my 2 destinations that I ever go to, yeah. And Centre Parks.
Oh, yeah.
That's a drive. That's a drive.
No one's as hateful as me then. I've got a list. I might get it tattooed on me.
No, I've learnt to get
You
better.
can add to it as you go.
Yeah,
Number
speak
what?
to Sophie. She might have to do that for you. I've got better since reading Think Like a Monk, Jay Shetty's book. I've been like, right, let me just stop. Let me just chill out a little bit.
It's baggage, man. It really hurts. I used to have like visceral reactions, I say, to like people who I hated,
Yeah,
and it used to put me in a bad fucking mood.
all day as well.
I'm just like, why are you? And they're not doing anything. They're just on my screen. And I thought that feeling is so like, it just drags me down. So I've actually like learned to try and cut those things.
Negative energy.
Yeah, but eat with your mouth open, I'll slap you.
Good.
Yeah, that's just like a common. Have some respect. Eat with your mouth closed.
All right, cool. Well, we are here. Whether it's the penultimate, the last, the third last, we don't know yet. We're just having such a good time doing it. Today, we are going to discuss the use of anabolic steroids in depth and our perspective on the use of anabolic steroids. I think particularly kind of addressing this to largely the younger bodybuilding demographic. I think this is what hopefully will help a lot of people with what we're going to say, but also older people who are maybe just getting into bodybuilding later on and wondering whether that's a journey for them. I think there's such a wide spectrum of like sort of novice perspectives on steroids. I know there's going to be some camp that's like still don't know if like Mr. Olympia is on steroids. You know, there's definitely some people, isn't there, like that?
Yeah.
And then there's the other end of the spectrum. It's like absolutely everyone in the gym is on steroids.
Yeah.
Neither are correct. Well, actually, no, Mr. Olympia is on steroids, and not everyone in the gym is on steroids. So we're going to sort of talk through that. I'd like to probably go through sort of the steps to take before you're thinking about it, like the whole natural potential debate, and then maybe sort of, well, definitely the risks, because I don't think we talk about that enough. There's a lot of use, but there's a lot of talk about the safer use model, and not a lot of use about just don't use any model because it's not for you. So yeah, should we delve into it? How do you want to start?
It's nice because we're all. I said to Josh before, you were late.
Joe Late Brightman.
That we're in quite a good position whereby Josh has almost squeezed the blood out of the natural stone before then deciding to take anabolics, whereas I just went in because I thought, well, I'm sick and tired of going out. I don't mind switching what poison I'm putting in my body, if I'm being completely honest with you. Hence why I started taking them and just went on a bit of a journey. And yourself, where would you put yourself? Do you think
Similar to me.
I'd say similar.
Yeah, similar to Josh. I squeezed a good amount out of the.
You were 23?
24.
24.
I'm really satisfied with how I did it, honestly. I don't think once I started using it, it was like textbook, but in terms of like the making the decision and when I made it and the reasons I made it for, like I personally don't think there's a better reason to have made it. I think you're probably the same. You just waited a little bit longer.
Yeah, but I think I'm probably a little bit different in hindsight. And I think we should give a caveat, like we're not experts. This is education. This is like our experience. I'm trying to achieve a really, really big dream, and I'm very conscious of the time limit on this. I think I'm probably more than a lot of the Mr. Olympias and top bodybuilders. I'm a little bit more conscious of the time limit on this than perhaps they are. They're going to go till the wheels fall off. I might go until they start shaking, and I'll be like, oh, okay. And I think for me, like I'm 29 now. You know, I wouldn't mind being 26, 27, and having the same sort of physique.
Yeah.
Knowing that I've got a few more years to try and achieve my goal.
Yeah, I agree.
But like, I think the way I would have liked to take my entire bodybuilding journey and just move it a few years earlier, rather than like cut off 2 more years of me being, or 3 years of me being natural. I'd much rather have that same time frame.
Yeah, you'd probably say the same for most people, I guess. Like, I wish I started lifting at 16, and then maybe the whole thing would be shifted a bit forward, or the lifting properly at 16. Yeah, Tom, tell me about the time when you decided. Like, what was the thought process behind you going, I'm done with being natural? How long were you natural for? And was there something that twigged it in you? Like, how did that journey go for you?
I was 20. I think I was 20, and I'll be honest, I was going at
27 now.
28 now.
28.
Yeah. I've been on and off. Even the first 4 or so years, I was cycling on and off and not even doing PCT. I was so unaware as, to...
Any blood work back then?
Very minimal. Only because my mum was is a nurse, and she was like, she wants to know.
Yeah.
And she wasn't worried, so I wasn't worried.
Good.
But it was a sense of like, well, I'm kind of pushing it by going out with the boys, and that if I take anabolics, it will stop me from doing that, because I can't take anabolics and go out and drink and take drugs and whatnot. So it was my way of like, well, I'll stop doing that poison and I'll do this poison.
Yeah, so you saw them as like a like for like.
Yeah.
I'm just going to swap.
Yeah, and I also spoke to a couple of guys at Lewisham College, and I was thinking about competing. They was like, we're going to have to start anabolics then. I was like, oh God, really? Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know natural bodybuilding existed. I didn't know anything like that. I just knew bodybuilding existed through Dorian Yates magazine. So I thought, okay, I've got to do.
What was it that you like? What was it that you saw? Like, what was your like early gym years like? Were you surrounded by other people that would have been on anabolics? Like, did you think everyone was, or like at 20, why did you go? Other than you wanted to stop going out, why did you go? Yeah, this is the time for me to start taking anabolics. Do you think it was that nudge from other people about competing, or
it was looking at the people I'm competing against? So I thought, and it was like I was running test E, and then someone said, "Oh, you've got to go on test P." Because it's quicker action.
Swap the esters.
Cool,
you have to swap the esters. I was like, oh really? Oh, all right, cool. Spoke to my supplier, mate. I need some test P quick.
That'll drop the water out.
I'm competing in like 4 weeks. He was like, oh, you should probably take some Winstrol as well. So I was like, all right, cool.
Sold it.
I just like ran test P and Winstrol. But yeah, it was people that I knew I was going up against that were a lot bigger. The likes of Conor Rudelhoff. Remember Conor? I mean,
I know who you mean. Yeah.
I just thought, well, how am I even gonna compete against that? So and then I just made the jump.
Okay. And how did you feel about it? Were you like scared, nervous, worried, or was it just a case of like one of those easy sort of...
No, I weren't scared at all. I weren't scared because I don't think the level of information, even with regard to kind of side effects, was about then. It was only you could get gyno, you could get acne and things like that. Or if you're predisposed to it, then you could potentially get it. And I wasn't really that kind of oily. I didn't have like bad skin or whatnot. So I thought, oh, well, let me just make the jump and I'll be okay. So yeah, because I suppose I was so naive. There was no fear factor there.
You're probably closest to what most people do, unfortunately, I'd say. And that's, I guess we're trying to sort of, what we're going to try and debunk and save people from in this podcast. Yeah. Josh, what about your story?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think like we got different stories. Like for me, I was scared for a long time, but we did it differently, right? This is 5 years into the future after Tom had begun. The likes of Jordan Peters and Trained by JP had started talking about it more openly. Not that it was a trend, but it was almost like people are starting talking about gear now. So I knew a lot more about it. I knew the side effects. I knew the implications. Very much came from a hardcore, natural, die hard. Like I was like, I'm going natty till I die. And it wasn't until it kind of presented itself that I wasn't going to achieve what I wanted to achieve naturally, just because of all of the things that go into that equation. Then I had to make that choice. And it was a long, hard like road for me, because it was like 6 months of going back and forth. But ultimately, my passion and my goal of being at the Olympia was a huge one, and it was enough for me to say, right, there's a lot of cons here, but that one pro of achieving that dream is, you know, that's gonna be something I'm gonna remember forever. So I made that jump like that. We probably even did it differently in terms of how we started. Like I had a coach, Callum, actually, you guys might remember him from the last few episodes. He brought me through it. You know, we did a lot of things before, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point in this podcast, before jumping on to, you know, have some good data and some blood work to kind of go off. And then we started nice and low and just like got the most out of the least, and have done for the last 3 years.
So you would say that you knew that your probably knowledge of who was on and who was off was accomplished. You had a good idea.
What, when I started?
As in, yeah, in the years leading up to it.
Probably not. You know, not when I started. Like I didn't know what was possible. But when you do start to, you know, you get 3 or 4 cycles in, and you see how your body changes. You see those features of your body that, you know, kind of alternate. You think, okay, right, now it's easy to spot. So now I feel like I've accomplished that.
So I'm going back to, I guess what I mean was like you're looking at other people. So let's just say when we were at the Arnolds, for example, because this is such a funny story for me, which I'll come on to. But what was your understanding of it at that point, if you remember? Because we were obviously going up against a lot of assisted blokes, right?
Yeah.
But you had to sign a little waiver that said, I'm not using steroids.
Yeah, and that was enough. I assumed that maybe 1 or 2 guys were on.
Right.
Whereas I look back now and every single person was on.
At the highest amateur level in Europe.
At the highest amateur level in Europe.
Yeah.
And I kind of was like a little bit of fish out of the water, you know, like the density wasn't there, like the condition wasn't there, like not one point of what these guys had was there, and I didn't know why, because I'd run myself into the ground, and it started to make a little bit more sense as I grew up and learned more about that side of things.
Mm. And in terms of like the fear, what was it you were scared of? Because I think I dived into it probably a bit quicker than you. I still have a bit of fear, which I'll talk about. But like, what were you scared of exactly? Do you remember?
Just like, you know, you hear those. I think the thing I was most scared of was like changing, and I liked who I was as a person. I didn't want to take these steroids. They play with my brain or my aggression, and I get like some mad like roid rage. Like I had this perception that you take gear, you get mad roid rage. I was like, fuck, I don't want to do that. I don't want to change as a person. And then like I educated myself over like six, 7 months of doing this, and realized that it's probably not going to happen straight away. You know, it's, you know, X, Y, Z. And that was the main thing that I was worried about. I was educated to the point where I know that I could potentially mitigate as much of the damage that I'm doing to myself. And I was under the impression back then that like what I was doing was going to be absolutely fine. Now I'm here, you know, 3 years later, and the cycles that I take now, like, okay, like this, I'm probably not mitigating all of that damage at all. So,
yeah, definitely.
That was the main thing I was worried about. Rather than like gyno acne and all those things, I wasn't so worried about those.
Okay. Interesting.
I went down, I was a bit like KLPT. Like,
I don't think you were like KLPT.
No, in the sense of everyone's on gear.
Oh, right, okay.
I mean, because I went into taking anabolics with no understanding of like competition level bodybuilding. It was more so, the first time I was really seeing it was the sort of rise of the foot soldier football scenes. Do you know what I mean? Where like the hooligan doorman type, seeing needles go into arses,
right,
as opposed to these people are taking anabolics to compete at a high level. It was more so just because of the people I was around and the area I lived in. So it was like people were taking anabolics because they wanted to be the biggest doorman, or do you know what I mean? That was my first into. So I just thought, everyone. When I then started to look into bodybuilding, everyone's on gear, then everyone's on. And then in the fitness industry, everyone's on gear. I didn't really have an understanding of genetic potential, if I'm being completely honest with you.
Yeah, interesting. My story, I guess, is similar to Josh's in that I spent a long time like natural. I was very sure that I wanted to compete naturally, but I think I was clouded by so much naivety.
100%.
I did think that.
Same
like,
as me.
I thought that loads. I knew I wasn't stupid. I knew that Mr. Olympia wasn't. Sorry to anyone that feels stupid after saying that. I knew that people on the Olympia stage weren't natural, but I was definitely. I was definitely a believer of the natural scene, or at least that a lot of people were natural. I think I remember looking at a lot of people and thinking, yeah, that's attainable.
100%.
I could do
That
that
is me.
with a few years. Because I guess in those early years, if you do train hard, then really that's probably all I had actually for the majority of the time, like training hard and tracking my macros. Like I saw my body change, so I sort of, in myself, I thought, yeah, a lot of this is possible. And so right up until... honestly, right up until the Arnolds, when I was signing those waivers for UKBFF that said, I hereby say I'm not taking steroids, which is all you really have to do to get your membership card. I believed that. I wholeheartedly believed it. I went into that. Funny. I know. I went into that. In fact, my sort of competition history. So that first ever show I did was that Body Power on that sort of amateur World Fitness Championships, or whatever it was. And I was completely natural there. I was tiny as well and came second, and that kind of, I guess that gave me an idea of like what you can achieve naturally, and it's 100%. A bit more about shape and not so much about this and that. So I think I was probably exposed a little bit to people on anabolics. So I remember getting a picture of like Jacko De Bruyne at that expo. Yeah. Obviously I knew he wasn't natural, but I guess I put them on such a high pedestal of like level of athlete. And I guess actually, if we think about it, back then there would have been quite a lot of natural men's physique.
Potentially, when we first started, yeah.
Maybe Ryan Terry was natural back then. Like, it's very possible. So, I think there was a wide spectrum of people that were on and weren't on. But I honestly believe that like people I was competing against were on. I always, in my head, I was like, because I did juniors first, I was thinking, would any junior really be stupid enough to take anabolics this young?
Yeah.
Lo and behold, I competed against Louis Blackmore. He did like a Anavar only cycle and came in absolutely skinned out. I think he came. Shout out Louis. Yeah, he came second in the end. And looked unreal, but I remember getting there today and thinking, oh fuck, look at this guy, he's absolutely peeled. I think his posing let him down, otherwise he would have smoked me. But and then yeah, obviously got that invite to the Arnolds, and that was where we sort of first properly met. It must have been the first time we probably met. And I remember I got absolutely slaughtered in the junior class. It must have been 30. It was the biggest class I've ever been in, but I must have been near the bottom. And the guy that won was this Ukrainian guy. I'll shout out Ukraine as well, actually.
Big up Ukraine.
Big up Ukraine. And he was 21 and he was 91 kilos on stage. I remember finding his Instagram.
Jesus.
And I thought, that's a fucking big boy, isn't it?
That's a big boy.
And then obviously after that, it slowly started dawning on me that actually that waiver meant fucking diddly squat.
Yeah.
And then we went to that Diamond Cup.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You must remember what happened there.
Yeah.
So we competed in the same class this time. It's the first time we competed against each other. Men's class, I mean, Josh came third, I came fifth, and we realised that the finals then came and all the Iranians and Arabs left because they were going to start testing people.
They were going to actually drug test people.
Really?
Yeah.
So everyone left.
It was like the top 3 of every category go into the final, so it was like 15 people.
Stop.
3 people turned up. I came third, and I got $500. Because they were all not natural, because they were going to piss test the winners.
I see. Wow.
So they all left.
Wow, man.
Yeah. And they were like outrageous, like, you're really going to do this? We've come all this way?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Were you natty when you know that video of you?
That's, fully natty. Man.
What's that?
Oh, it's
seen
so
that video
funny.
of him?
Oh, I'll show you it. I mean, it's like my first set of like posing.
Just twerking out, man.
Yeah,
It's
man.
insane.
That's where I get my moves from.
I die every time I see that video.
Oh, it's so good.
I need to see
If you've got the footage, I'll try and put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just lay it over this.
I'll send you it. Yeah.
It is the best posing you'll ever see.
Oh, is he flicking
Not
the
even-
eyes?
not
worse,
even
man.
that, not even that.
Honestly, I don't know what I was doing, man.
Like a
There was
snake.
All sorts of shit going on.
I thought he was going to start going.
It was crazy. I was
That's
going
when
crazy.
That's when he had like the full Charlie from Busted look.
Yeah.
Big old quiff.
Old school.
Yeah.
Big old quiff. Yeah. So yeah, no, that was my first. That was that body power show. So yeah, fully natural. I think when it came to, like I said, when it came to sort of my decision, I think it's probably similar with you, Josh. I had obviously thought about it for a long time. Once I sort of knew everyone was on, I was like, right, okay, so that's what's going to have to happen if I want to turn pro, which is obviously the aim. After I'd sort of proved myself at a natural level, you know, I think if you can win a show naturally, you've probably got a decent set of genetics, and maybe this is a path that's worth going down for you, even with the health consequences. So I spent a couple of years after that, you know, sort of making that decision. I guess I educated myself on the risks. Funnily enough, like my mum's also a nurse or a midwife now, but obviously has that sort of background. My dad and my stepdad are both into bodybuilding. They both used steroids when they were younger, so that gave me a lot of confidence, really, because in my head I was like, I bet they didn't do it very well and they're all right, so I was sort of like, maybe I'll be all right as well. So I then came to that decision, and yeah, I think my biggest concerns probably was like acne, like hair loss, all things that came true. Yeah. I don't think I was worried about, I wasn't too worried about who I was going to become as a person, because I'm really like, I'm not passive, but I'm not aggressive. It would take a lot for me to be like actually aggressive towards anyone. Used to smash up my Xbox controllers and that, but like not
who didn't?
Not aggressive towards people. So I wasn't too worried about that. Was definitely worried about gyno, another thing that came true. And yeah, in terms of the health, my perspective was so similar to you in that I'd sort of educate myself to a point where I was like, I'm not going to be taking grams and grams and grams of gear. I think I can do a good job of mitigating the health consequences, providing I like monitor my health. So that was probably where I was at with it. I didn't have a coach at the time, so I think the difference between our starting points is I just went off JP's videos, which at the time were quite a lot different than they are now. So my first cycle was like 500 meg test.
So was mine.
E on its own, which is a lot.
That's double what I did.
And mad, isn't it, that? Because we started up here, and
yeah,
you've probably done that now.
Well, yeah, I use less tests now than I did when I started.
Yeah, but
I mean,
more compounds.
I don't regret that cycle in this, like, because it fucking blew me up.
Yeah, you
like,
were massive.
Yeah, same. I think I was bigger back then as a junior. And I was like 101 lean.
Yeah,
fucking up the test, my boy.
I know.
It blew me to the moon. So I don't regret it, but we wouldn't recommend that now. Definitely not. Yeah, that's our starting points, I guess.
That's our history in anabolics. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think a lot of people think that you've got to. If you were to start at 500, I think a lot of people will be shocked that we've now dropped our test. Do you know what I mean? As opposed, because I think people believe that if you start at 500, you've got to go 750 in a gram. When you be slightly smarter with decisions, in the sense that the incorporation of things like Primo and Mast alongside the testosterone. Because I didn't even know nothing about those things. I didn't know that they were also used to kind of help the ratio of estrogen as well. So you get rid of, whereas I was like smashing down AIs.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Where did you get the majority of your like knowledge from? Like, where did you learn?
I took a lot of seminars. I say seminars, not seminars. Like a consult calls with Joe Jeffrey. I'll shout out Joe Jeffrey because like he's brought a lot to the game. There's no two ways about it. He brought a lot to the game in terms of safer use models. Victor Black as well. He's a good Instagram. Well, if you can look past the way he talks about stuff, he's got a good Instagram page to learn about stuff.
Yeah.
And then just obviously like conversations with Cal and whatnot. But yeah, pretty extensive. Like probably like 30, 40 hours of like paid learning. And then like the rest of it is just like experience, and like I've been using that for 3.5 years. So I didn't like coach anabolics for the first like 2.5 years, you know, because I didn't have that experience nor the know-how, and spent that time learning over that period of time.
Mine was William Llewellyn's.
Oh, the book.
Oh, the GOAT.
Yeah, the book.
The OG.
That was my first, and that's good. Like a lot of the stuff that I'll look on the book and then relate to that being current is still pretty much the same. And a few underground books as well. Scott something, I can't remember his name, but yeah, it was like underground vibes.
Scott Stevenson, Dr. Scott.
Was it Dr. Scott's? But I don't know if he's ever done a book on anabolics. Is he?
Sure.
Don't know if he's not underground though. He's quite.
No, it was literally the PDF was underground anabolics by someone. and it gave like half-lives and elimination times and stuff like that for each thing. It was really interesting.
So when I was thinking about making the leap, my stepdad gave me this little booklet, probably about 50 pages, that just listed each steroid and like what it did and stuff like that. So like that was what he was like, read through this before you make the decision. It wasn't handmade. It was like a legit publication.
I thought it was the ones that he's tried.
No, it wasn't his notes like Dorian's 1989 training logs. So that was quite interesting. I imagine it was all just sort of the chemical breakdowns and stuff. So it's probably quite accurate. I don't think the science has changed there. It's just the sort of methodologies. But one of the big things for me, I remember sort of moving into. I remember the first jab. I was like, oh, like the adrenaline was pumping. I was thinking, fucking hell. And then it was in, and I was like, I've done it. All right, let's go. But I always remember there was like boundaries for me, because back then that's kind of changed now. But I was always like, I'll never need insulin. I'll never need tren, and all these things. So I sort of set the boundaries. So as time went on for me, like I sort of knew, even though my test started high, I was like, I'll start with my test where that is, and then if I can push that up a little bit, but then I know there was like other things to use. So I was thinking, as time goes on, that's how I'd advance it. But yeah, the boundaries for me were like no tren, won't ever need insulin. I even thought I wouldn't need that until about a year ago.
It's an important point to note, because like you will, you know what, I'm just going to do that one cycle. I'm just going to go in and I'm going to do that one cycle. Maybe I'll do a second one if it goes well. And then guess what? Your goalpost moves and your bar just continually moves. And the same thing with me, I'm not going to need tren. Did it on my first second competition prep. I'm going to get insulin, use it all this off season. It's like that. Whether or not that boundary post moving is in line with your risk to reward ratio, that's a different story. But that line, more often than not, will start to just budge forward. And when you start to play with your health, that nudging starts to play with that risk. And I don't think people think about that. They want to do the one cycle and come off and keep all their gains. But
let's talk about that.
How much of a psychological impact is that even for people that aren't competing, taking anabolics, that just say to themselves, I'm going to do one? Do they get addicted to the results? Do they get scared of, if I come off, I'm going to lose all of my results? What do you think?
I think there's layers to it. I think for me, there's a feeling that's associated with being on.
I said that on Instagram the other day. I said I miss being on.
And you're just like, fuck. And you can get this when I was 90 kilos, 100 kilos, 120 kilos, you get a point in that gym and you just go, fuck, I feel like an absolute monster right now. And it's quite a satisfying feeling. So I think that goes a little bit, but most importantly, and for everyone, it's going to be the lack of pop. Am I regressing now? And it's the first time, this is the one thing that I hadn't dealt with when I was natural, is regressing. Because you don't regress when you're natural already, do you? No. You get fatter and you get leaner, but you don't actually feel like you're getting smaller, deflated, along with strength getting weaker, along with your joints hurting a little bit more. And that's the first time you've got to psychologically come over that barrier in your life. Some people don't get over it, and they want to go, all right, well, I'm only going to wait 4 weeks this time. I'm going to get back on, instead of the 8, 12, 14, 16 weeks that I should be doing.
Let's talk about, because I have this question a lot from people, like, oh, I just want to do one. I just want to do one cycle just to put on 5 kilos of muscle, and then I want to stop. What would you say to someone that said that to you, either of you?
You go.
No, don't do it.
Yeah,
don't do it. Because you're going to get addicted to the psychological reward, the effect it has on yourself, the confidence, and it's hard to drop that off. Do you know what I mean? It's like that post, it's like that gold medal effect. Even after your show, when you just shredded, all the food's going in, you're looking full. It's hard to detach from that. I mean, I'm 10 months off now. I say off, but 10 months just not natty, and I have to say to myself, right, it's changed now. My reward is going in the pool on a Tuesday and beating my 50 metre. And then you just have to I do miss, it was a very small percentage I miss. Very, very small. And it would just be, I'll just flirt with the idea I used to like going in and doing 6 plates on the side, but we got boxing tomorrow, and we got to be sharp and we got to be quick, things like that. So for me, I think that it's worth noting for a lot of people, if they ever do feel like that, it's like there is more to it than just being big. There's more to it than being strong. There is so many other sports out there because I definitely got trapped in the narrow-minded nature of bodybuilding and anabolics. Where it's like, oh well, this is me now. Like, oh, I'm just going to be this big 40-year-old geezer you see in the gym. You just feel a bit sorry for because that's all he's got. But it's like, no.
Yeah.
You know, there is more to life than it.
Agreed. I think the same answer for me. I mean, one cycle, you're going to lose it all, in my opinion. Like,
Eventually.
Eventually. Like, you're going to look good for 4, 8, 12, maybe even 16 weeks after that cycle. But then, you know, once your androgen level starts to come back down to normal, once you downregulate, once you can't sustain that level of recovery, that level of training, you're going to start to lose it. And then I don't know whether the psychological battle with coming off with... I don't know if there's anyone who's done one cycle, probably very few people. And they've been the people who've gone, oh, I don't really like this. You know, the ones who take one cycle and go, this is quite nice, odds are they've probably done another one, you know. And I think when it comes to the risk of potentially, no matter how big the percentage is, probably quite a small one, the potential for you never to have kids, you know, the potential for you to increase your risk for, you know, arteriosclerosis, heart disease, kidney disease, liver disease, it all goes up as soon as you put steroids inside you. And it will just incrementally go up the longer you do that.
Yeah, I think I want to take it back a step and just flat out say, like, it's just not worth it. If that is your mindset, you've lost already. Like, you're dead wrong immediately. If you think it's a one-off decision, it's not. It's not something that's going to be a short-term, like a short-term fix for anything. I've had someone come to me recently who said, I just want some bigger arms. So I was just thinking to do a cycle, and I was like, right, okay, let's just take it back a step. Why do you want bigger arms? Because I like bigger arms. Do you think bigger arms are going to make you happier? Because I can fucking assure you they're not. Because as soon as they get bigger, you want them a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. It's a never-ending end of the rainbow that you will never, ever reach, no matter how many cycles you take, I don't believe. And I think taking, like I said, if you think you're going to go in, do one cycle and come off, initially your mindset's all wrong. It's either a lifelong decision or a very, very, very long-term decision, like years and years, I would say. No, if you're going to do one cycle, if you're going to do two, just don't even bother. It's honestly not worth it. I think the health risks, the cosmetic risks as well, like that acne is going to make you miserable if you get it wrong, which again is all like an encompassing thing. If that's your mindset, you're probably going to get the cycle wrong. You're probably going to get the blood work wrong. You're probably not going to supplement properly. You're just not bought in enough to the process to take any anabolics, so don't do it. What if you start losing your hair? That's a massive thing for men. Yeah. Gyno, that can literally ruin your life, I'd say. Like, for a lot of people, if you get it badly, and if you haven't, or you know, if you don't have a spare $5,000 to get it cut out, which by the way is a really horrible procedure, having done it myself. It all comes down to that risk to reward ratio, like you say, which for us is really worth it. And that was always the bottom line for me. It was like, no matter what, I think I can get to my goal and significantly turn my life upside down by taking anabolics, which I think I've sort of improved right. So that's kind of where I sit on that. Just don't do it. It's not worth it.
Just to play devil's advocate, kind of developing from that. Okay, I'm going to do it one time. What about someone? And I wonder whether you notice this, Tom. And it's a hard question to answer, but like, I'll play the role of the person. You know what? I'm going to take steroids for business. I'm going to take steroids so I look better for my business. I look like I'm, you know, visually better. I wonder, did you ever have an impact on the website, your coaching, you know, when you were on? Granted, you've kind of switched lifestyles a little bit, but when you were on versus like off or anything like that? Because me coming from, you know, being supernatural and then going to not natural.
That's what I did that piece on The Guardian years ago when they asked the exact same thing, the Love Island effect. So you're getting people go on it, or go on to Love Island and taking anabolics because they're going to be they're going to be on over everyone's screens. Yeah. So they're taking it not for competition, but I don't think I've ever been in a shape whereby the sheer size or condition of me would gain me any monetary value. Like, I don't think I've never been a freak. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I can't say that I've ever noticed a period whereby business or members site content has gone up based on the way I look. Because I don't think my business model is really prided in the way I've looked to get business.
Agreed.
Do you know what I mean?
I think that's a big thing for people to take, is that yes, we do bodybuilding. Yes, you might be an online physique coach, but your knowledge is what separates you from everyone else, not your physique. Yes, your physique is going to be a little bit of a marketing technique if it's very, very good. But guess what? Like, it's some of the most successful coaches. We look at Hani Rambod, look at people like that. They're not in shape. They used to be bodybuilders back in the day. They've walked the walk, but they're not necessarily in shape. So I think I get a lot of people that message me and say, I want to take steroids for my business. I'm like, is that business outcome going to be worth like we said, a 5 to 10 year commitment, potentially lifelong commitment of TRT?
Everyone's got genetically stronger body parts even as a natural, haven't they? So I suppose you could see the angle of them taking anabolics, and then obviously if they blow up a body part, chest, back, arms, whatnot, then their content would be like how to grow your arms. I put on 6 inches on my arms, but then...
But is that ethical?
Yeah, of course, exactly. And how many of them are going to take anabolics and not tell people they're going to take anabolics and then do that sort of content? And then we go into that whole fake natural field where everyone got fucked up last time because the likes of Simian Panda, encapsulated so many younger people looking up to them. It's like, oh my God, I can be like him. And it's like, that's not the case. Yeah. And that all dropped off.
I think there's a big part as well in like drawing inspiration from people in the industry, but understand that unfortunately or fortunately for you, the body you've got is the body you're stuck with, and a steroid enhanced body is just going to be a bigger version really of what you are anyway. So actually, if you've got really gangly arms, unfortunately the rest of your whole body's going to grow. Like, you might improve your arms, but they're still going to really be in proportion with the rest of your body, right? So if you're looking to enhancement to reach some level of happiness or satisfaction with your self-worth, I'd say that you're much better off, and short and long term, just doing like self-love work or like body image work, or just sort of appreciating what you've got more. Because the steroids, again, just that's not it. That's not the answer. I think we see there will be so many people that take steroids because they're not happy with their bodies, because maybe they see the likes of Love Island now that's becoming a bit more common, or just a very open fitness industry. There's influencers everywhere you look. Everyone looks great if you look hard enough for it. But the bottom line is, like, you take those steroids too early, and you will undoubtedly have just achieved a physique that you could have got naturally without any of the side effects.
Yeah.
Number two, you then have to, like you said, deal with the fallout of that when you come off, if that's what you decide to do at some point. And number three, I just promise you, you're still not going to be happy with your physique. I don't think doing it for business is ever a good decision. We see hundreds of successful natural physique coaches now.
For sure.
And I think we spoke about it last week in terms of like the virality of a physique. Like, more often than not, like, you just get shredded and get a nice angle and some lighting, and if you want to go viral, you'll go fucking viral. Yeah.
You're also going to have to deal with especially if you're being open about it, you're going to have to deal with quite a few naive people who think that a single steroid cycle will turn you into Olympia. Because I've had to put up with that for years. First couple of years, I've found it really tough, because I was like, what am I doing wrong? What am I actually doing wrong? Or do I need to take more gear? Like, mum, like these people, my mum would read the comments and say, oh, just, ignore it. But people do believe that you take 1 or 2 cycles and you'll be at that pro level, where it's not really the case. Yeah. You take steroids and look like that.
People forget, and Joe said this many times, they forget how high the mountain is. Me and Joe have been doing this for a decade. We've been on steroids for 3 or 4 years. But not only that, we have trained for this very single purpose for 10 years nearly. We've ate like it. We've recovered like it. At no point have we taken breaks. And we're still at the bottom of the rung, right? Really?
Well, I guess we're at the bottom of the top league now.
Yeah.
But still a long way from the top.
We've gone from third. We're in the Premier League, but we're in the relegation zone at any point. Right?
You can get relegated any day now.
And we're a decade in. And I think people often think, wow, Joe's done amazing this year. He's blown up over a few years. It's blown up for a few years. Like, yeah, but there's the 7, 8 years.
It's that Picasso thing, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. It's the tip. You're seeing the tip of the iceberg. Yeah. You haven't seen, the whole thing below. And I think a lot of people think they can jump in and make pro next year after being on cycle. I think that doesn't work like that, man. It's so hard. And guess what? If you're genetically blessed, then it's easier for you. But guess what? 99% of us aren't.
And also, anabolics aren't going to tell you if you're genetically blessed. You'll know it already.
Yeah,
You will know it already. You would have found that out
Exactly.
Naturally.
Yeah, me and Joe we won regionals naturally. We did really well in the British finals. Both of us performed always among people who are not natural as well. So, if you're perhaps, and this pinch of reality has to come with it. There's no two ways about it. It has to come with it. If you're coming 5th and 4th in your regional show, no disrespect, you can try, you can do what you want, but it's not for you. And you can't do that year on the end. It's not for you. And putting your health at risk, putting your family at risk, the stress you've got to put on your body, it's very hard for me to sit here and say, yeah, that's a good idea.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. I think for many people the risk isn't worth it. I guess that's what we're sort of trying to get across here, particularly for the younger people. What was coming across to me as you were speaking there is like, if you spend 10 years trying to get good at anything, like you probably can do it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And if and this is where what's the definition of luck, where preparation meets
execution?
Preparation meets something else. Anyway, that's the definition of luck. When you're prepared for something and an opportunity, preparation meets opportunity. If you try long enough to be good at something, like the chances are, if you're doing it for 10 years and you're still not quite there, maybe that thing's not actually for you, and just switch your focus. But I think that doesn't mean you have to quit bodybuilding. It just means look at what your niche is, because if your physique isn't taking you to the top, then like Hanny Rambod, like you said, like there's lots of jobs in bodybuilding if that's what you're passionate about. It doesn't have to be competing, and don't always think that you need to compete to have like a successful business within bodybuilding or whatever it is. But I think even less so. If this podcast says one thing, it's like, if you're a casual gym goer who has not dedicated their life to the sport of bodybuilding, it's just an immediate no.
Yeah, and don't compare yourself to people who have.
Yeah,
that's the most important thing.
It's more rewarding as well. I've certainly noticed that being off for the last 10 months, and I do make progression. I get more. It's a bit like when Stephen Bartlett gained that 200 million. There was not much of a kick out of it, but he got more of a kick when you found 14 quid down a chicken and chip shop chair. I get more of a kick now of progressing, because it's like, well, I've done this without any help. Do you know what I mean? I'm unassisted now, so I'm not. Yeah, it does feel far more rewarding than when I was on, but I do miss elements to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's almost I think for me, like, since being on anabolics, there's an expectation for me every week that I will get better.
Yeah.
And that's something I will struggle to deal with, I think, when I sort of come off, and when I'm done with it, because I don't want to be on anabolics for the rest of my life. When I'm finished competing, I will definitely try to come off and see if I can re-establish everything naturally, because it's just a whole lot less things to worry about more than anything.
Yeah.
I'm also really intrigued to see how which we've not really touched on yet, but the mental aspect of anabolics.
Yeah.
I just sort of stopped my blast 2 weeks early because I was feeling really anxious and paranoid a lot of the time, and that's just not me. And I'm really not in tune actually with the sort of the mental side effects, because I say I've always been quite resilient, but relatively passive as well. Like I get really shitty in prep, but I think that's the lack of food, not the higher anabolics. So it's something I've not always been that in tune with, but I am really intrigued to see how I change as a person if the natural Joe comes back, whoever that was, because I've definitely forgotten who he was. I think as life goes on, you change as a person anyway. Like that's a part of it. But I wonder how much of that has been enhanced or edited further by my anabolics use, which is something that people probably should be worried about, because we're still not really sure about that, are we? Definitely. And I say we as in the collective we. Like there's not enough studies on this, the brain.
That's one thing I have noticed in the last 10 months, is that this is the longest time that I've been in a physiological range of testosterone. So the last however many years, 7-8 years, the max time has probably been like 8 to 10 weeks. Do you know what I mean? So this has been the longest time where I've been full on stable, and 100%
feel the difference.
100% back to being Tom.
Yeah.
back to being.
Because we have androgen receptors everywhere. Androgen receptors in your brain, you know, they're getting activated. We know that things like trenbolone or nandrolone, 19-nors, are a little bit more potentially brain toxic from what we've seen. You know, when you're using these close to a decade, you know, like anything on your body, you run it into the ground, you're going to start having some effects. And like, you know, I often wonder, like, has my anxiety come from the drugs? Like, because it's definitely increased, but also so has social media and the pressure to perform and the pressure to be an IFBB pro and the pressure. So it's like, it's very hard to track that one single variable of steroids when there's a lot of things moving. But the mental side is, like, for me, it's quite a big impact for me. Like, I worry about, not like I'm fretting 24/7, but like I'm feeling, you know, heart palpitation. What's that? You know, I'm hypersensitive to things. In terms of like injury or like blood work, I'm constantly worried. Like, you got to think about your blood work's probably never going to look good, like, while you're using it. Different things like that. They give you a mental toll as well as the physical toll.
Yeah, it's interesting you say about that social media thing, because I certainly started to like piece together and start to correlate being on anabolics with my sort of ferocious nature of wanting to gain loads of money and fame and power. And I was like, as soon as I came off and had been natty, probably not totally down to the anabolics and due to situations that happened in my life whereby, you know, relationships have ended and things like that. So, but I do think there's an element of when you are dosed up to the eyeballs with all those compounds like Tren, I can see it in my business because I'm like, I
think it'll enhance what's going on, you know?
Yeah, totally. I remember being ruthless and like, no, I've got to do this and this, you know, I can't go out because I've got this business call, boom, 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 boom. Whereas now I'm still on it, but just more, I don't know, more compassionate, I suppose.
What's your what's something that you've faced since you've started steroids that wouldn't have been otherwise?
I think I faced a fucking lot of it. I think I got a really bad deal, a bum deal. I said to you in Dubai, didn't I? I look at people like Andre Dew and I'm like, right, no apparent hair loss, no gyno, no acne, and I think, was this the path for me? Yeah. In terms of, definitely lost some hair. I remember one of my pro cards, I had a very thick, long head of hair, which people ask me all the time, is it coming back? Absolutely not coming back, because I don't think it can come back. I think I've halted it. I think I've halted my hair loss. I think it's improved over the last year, which I was bloody very, very relieved about, because I remember after all my pro card shitting myself. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, I'm off to Turkey ASAP. But I think I managed to halt that, which is good. Which I think I might talk about that in a YouTube video, actually, because I think loads of people are interested in it.
Definitely.
The gyno obviously was really horrible.
Which I had surgery for,
which
cost £5,000.
£4,500 surgery out of my back pocket, which is a very unpleasant procedure. But again, it's that risk to reward, isn't it? It's like, it was a case of, I have to do this. So it's one of the things I had to get over. But aside from all that, you know, without all that, there's still other things. I think, as I've spoken about quite openly on this podcast over the last few episodes, just that consciousness of my health. Yeah,
it's a burden. It's a burden.
There is a huge mental burden and physical burden to the way I feel now. Walking around at 125, 128 kilos, it's not nice. I think probably the thing that springs to mind most is like, not social anxiety, though I think it is a level of that. Like, I really hate being noticed. It's so ironic, because obviously I stand on a stage and I want everyone to look at me, but
so similar to that,
that's where I'm comfortable. And you know, I was walking through the gym yesterday, pumped out my nut with a vest on, and I was thinking, do you know what it is? It's that I feel comfortable here. Yeah. I'm allowed to be my complete, like, kind of open self, and I'm not going to get judged for the size of me, or maybe what that means for who I am as a person. Whereas I think you walk around at this size, I completely forget how big I am all the time. I've got fantastic body dysmorphia, and I'm fine with that. It doesn't bother me. That's probably something else we should touch on, because it will bother some people. I feel smaller than I am, and therefore I almost believe that I am. So when I get like checked, when someone asks me, and it's the first thing that's always on, you know, for someone that doesn't know me, I go out to a social event and it's the first thing people want to talk about. I hate it. I'm out in public. I remember we spoke about this loads of times. I think I was in Zara last summer, just in a t-shirt, man. Some little guy coming up to me asking me what I eat to get that big, and I just immediately get my back up. Immediately, I literally wanted to tell him to fuck off. I was with my girlfriend at the time, and she's like, just relax. He's being complimentary. I'm like, I just don't care. Like, I guarantee everywhere I go out, once a day I'll get how much do you bench. I got it the other day and I responded positively, and the person I was with was like, well done, like you didn't snap. So that's probably a really big thing for me. Like I don't shy away from going out, but you know, it's just always in the back of my mind, and I purposely dress to cover it up.
Yep.
I will wear clothes that I hope cover up. It's when we go out together, and when we went to Novikov and I sat opposite you and I was thinking, fucking hell, he's so big.
I was thinking the same.
And I was like, I must look like that as well. So I don't like that a lot, which is definitely one of the big burdens. And yeah, I mean, it's something that I'm really looking forward to. I think when I you know, for all the turmoil I think I might be in when I downsize and I'm no longer the big guy, I'm looking forward to fitting in like an XL Zara again and being a bit more normal size and not freaky nature, I think.
Yeah, I think it's important to know there's a lot more going on than probably what you've seen from us as well. Like there's a lot that kind of goes in the behind the doors with that mental burden. Like I've had physical burdens. I think like I've had some really bad injections before, like where I've had infections. Like my leg is blown to twice the size. Go to the doctors, they look at you like, what the fuck are you doing? Mm-hmm. You know, whether that was a bad batch or a dirty needle like this, is think you're injecting yourself. Yeah. You know, feel a bit like a crackhead sometimes when you're doing it 3 times a day because you've got growth in the morning, you've got growth at night, and you've got a big injection when you're doing 10 mil of fucking oil a week. Like it doesn't feel nice to inject yourself every single day and know that you're poisoning yourself every day. I've had problems with heart palpitations, whether or not that's associated with steroids. They only came from steroids. Had to have ambulatory heart monitors on for a week. I've had to have heart scans. I've had to have kidney scans. My kidney markers are skewed. My cholesterol's poor. I don't know how your cholesterol's looking.
Always bad.
Cholesterol's not good, and it doesn't mean I'm going to have a heart attack tomorrow, but it means that I am filling up that jar, you know, and we're filling up that, you know, you, like we've used the engine reference, we are running on red lines. We are running our kidneys harder than they should be doing naturally. Liver, cholesterol, heart, everything will take a hit. And depending on your genetics and your ability to recover from those, you know, toxicity can build up pretty quickly.
I think that's such an important topic, because probably when I was making that initial decision as well, it was like you say, it was like, I think I can mitigate these.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, you've asked me what sort of maybe drawbacks or challenges I've had with anabolics, and the bottom line is we don't know.
Yeah,
we just
we're not
going to
find out till later.
We're not going to find out until it's far too late, and that is the same for absolutely everyone who takes anabolic steroids. We've probably, I mean, I've sat here and I've sort of joked about it before, and it is how I feel. You know, if I was going to live to 85 naturally and I lived to 80 because of my endeavours, I'm actually, I say it now, I'm okay with that. Like, it's probably, I still hope that the reward was worth that risk. But the bottom line is, like, you're shaving years off your life. We say, we joke about picking your poison, but that is what you're doing. Like, and it's not a great fucking poison, especially if you want to push it. And my God, it can get worse if you're not as careful. I'd say we've been quite careful. Yeah. As far as we can be.
But I mean, even people refer to me as the guy who uses low doses. Like I use over 1,500 milligrams in my prep, but I still use a load of gear. Like it's not. I still have to push things. So I don't want, like, while it's really important that we talk about a safer use model and the drugs that we choose are very thought out, and there's reasons why we choose every drug because of safety. But it's not safe. No. We're still fucking ourselves. Yeah. It's just like we're fucking ourselves a little bit less. Yeah. Sorry to swear so much, Mum.
Where do you guys see, like, say you both have really successful, like incredibly successful seasons, then what happens now? Because you're talking about being on the red line. Surely another year and a bit of doing what you're doing is going to fucking kill you. Look at everyone's dropping dead now, Boston. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not to fucking scare you in that, but it's just I genuinely want to know, because like we spoke with Carl when Carl was saying about using this drug and that drug. I was like, no, fuck that. I'm not going anywhere. Do you want to up your trend? No, I don't, because I know what happens when I increase trend. I become an awful person. So no, I don't want to do it. Whereas you guys are almost accepting. Yeah, we're running on red. What happens when you both do classic this year and prosper and go, oh God?
Luckily, I know what happens. I'm not going to compete next year. Definitely, like I said, I've got 3 weddings, 3 stag do's. I've got a lot of shit going on, so I'm not going to be competing. And because I think I've been running the red line much longer than I wanted to anyway, because obviously I did that that men's physique prep that I really wanted to do, and then I sort of knew I had 2023 round the corner and I wouldn't be competing, so I was like, I'm gonna have to compete this year because I want to do it, and if I leave until 2024, I'm just like, nah, you're done by then, son. So yeah, I don't know what will happen. I'll make the decision later on, but as I said, I'm really looking forward to being a normal size again. I'm not going to be running loads of gear in 2023. I've got wedding suits to fit into. I don't want to be at all these functions sweating my tits off because everyone keeps asking me about how big I am.
Even if you win the Arnold.
If I win the Arnolds, I'll go to the Olympia in December.
And then you get top 5 in Olympia or top 10 in Olympia.
Still not competing next year.
Really?
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
Wow.
Mate, if I got top 5 at the Olympia,
You'll be done.
I'll be dying a happy man.
Yeah, fair enough.
That would be enough for me. But that won't, I mean,
yeah.
Well, who knows?
Mine's a moving goalpost. I set myself in 2-year blocks. I did that for my pro card, and since I started steroids, I said, like, if it's not done in every 2 years and I haven't made the significant step up, either I don't have the genetic capability or it's not going to happen. So realistically speaking, a very, very, very outside chance of getting to the Olympia this year, because it's a very difficult thing to do in your rookie year. But if I'm not up there competing next year for wins, it'd be very difficult for me to come back the following year and try and do that, and so forth. But if I do creep up a little bit and I get a little bit closer, like I'm willing to give it another 3 or 4 years, and yeah, I'm willing to give it a couple 3 or 4 years depending on like what happens.
How much do you two think your business is a predicate on your physique and status in bodybuilding?
Quite heavily, I feel like quite heavily. I'm doing my best to try and separate it. I think 1MR is going to be very handy for me to be able to separate it.
Yeah, I was going to say the 1MR.
Which was always a plan from the start, because I have had like a 10-year limit, right? 25 to 35 of kind of experiment with these things. But like, I'm sure, Joe, like when you do step back, you're going to be faced with what I would feel, and what I would happen to me is, what the fuck am I doing, and where am I going, and how am I going to manage my own business again? Like, where is it going to just disappear overnight?
Just use me. see how I've been getting on over the last whatever.
Yeah,
it's true.
I think I've gotten to where I am because of my physique, which again we have to caveat that with, that's not going to be the same for everyone. Like, I believed in that. Like, I believed I had a good physique and I believed I could compete at the highest level. So it's definitely helped. I remember like we talked about this before, the moment I got my pro card, I got 10, 15, 20 inquiries, and I was like, here we go again. Yeah. But I am really confident, and I have this reaffirmed to me by other people that it's not going to go anywhere. The business isn't going to go anywhere. I'm still a coach, and I'm going to be working this year, which you've probably already seen, to build that coaching brand more, to take away from Joe Brightman, the IFBB Pro, and more to Joe Brightman or Team Brightman, the coaching brand. So really that's my exit plan, if you like. And if anything, I will endeavour to stay in good shape so that content stays good. I don't want to be pushing up to high weights again once I'm done with it. And I expect to drive that social proof of my brand, because actually competing takes away from my coaching service. It doesn't add to it. Definitely. So the act of competing, I mean the net gain is positive,
of course. But
the act of competing when I'm in the dog ends of prep and stress is high, like my business definitely takes a back seat. It has to. We spoke about it with Cal, didn't we? You said one of the reasons he's set apart is because he's not a bodybuilder anymore. He's a coach. Yeah. Coach first, bodybuilder second. And I look forward to that, to be honest. And I think
I'm
maybe
completely intimidated, bro.
Yeah, I'm shitting myself. Like, but it's like I'm like pros and cons. I'm pro and conning all the time. Yeah. All the time. I'm absolutely buzzing to step on that stage again. Like I've thought that, and I'm now almost a bit excited to prep. I can't believe I'm saying that over summer, but there's so many. I just think the future's bright, man. The future is bright. The future is bright, man. Oh, God damn. So yeah, no, definitely success is propped up by the competing journey so far. But I think it's a journey, man. People buy into the journey. I hope people will be just interested to hear about how I transition away from a classic physique pro to a normal person again.
Yeah, it's definitely a big fear of mine. Like, I think even kind of coming up in the game, like I do often wonder, like, am I going to say something wrong and it's all going to end? Am I going to wake up tomorrow and it's all not real? Because it does seem a bit not real sometimes, you know, when things are going really well and everything's successful and you think, I'm literally just doing this online. Like, what's going on here? This wasn't even a possibility 5 years ago. So I'm definitely like, that's going to really intimidate me, which is why I'm putting a lot of effort into kind of growing 101. Hopefully that can be a company on its own, and it's irrelevant of my bodybuilding. But I got no doubt, I've got a big fear of when I do stop bodybuilding, are people going to be interested anymore? They're going to be completely turned off by it. Because mine is very focused on bodybuilding. When I want to go do a triathlon, when I want to go feel good, lift good and look good, are they going to follow that? I don't know. It's going to be hard for me to transfer that.
But even if they don't, I noticed a big drop off. My post show, oh my word.
Yeah.
Wow. It was just, you know, the diehards kind of just dropped, you know. The diehards kept, they were whatever I do, but the people that were kind of just flirting with me because it was bodybuilding just went, and big drops in numbers. But then you that's how much of a percentage is that bodybuilding to fitness and lifestyle? Like, my God.
I will be personally very interested in your story, and I'm sure you'll be interested in my transition. So
absolutely,
I think something I've learned, and it's really hard, and it's something that you get imposter syndrome about daily by the sounds of things, as I think we all do. I'm the same. I'm like, how the fuck have I built this?
Yeah.
Bottom line is, man, people like you. You know, that, like, your information's good, but they like you.
It's hard to think sometimes.
It is, yeah, I know. Same for me. I'm like, do they? You know, because everything we do is based on trying to provide value, but actually people have bought into you because of who you are, and they like you, and they resonate with you and your journey. So there's no doubt people will continue to be interested. I think what Tom just said there about the bodybuilding's dropping off is, all right, cool, I might lose some bodybuilding following, but actually that's fine, because I'm not going to be I might not be taking my business in that direction anymore. Yeah. Or I might, depending on this year, you know, with coaching, I'm going to have clients on the Arnold stage and the amateur Arnold stage. I'm going to have clients, I think, pushing for pro cards. So it's going to be more of the audience will be looking at me to coach them rather than to inspire them with my physique, maybe. I mean, not, you know, it's going to be physique related again this year while I'm competing, but next year, you know, I still have to work. I'm still doing my job, and that will become my passion, like the sort of the first one, which I'm excited for sure.
Yeah,
amazing.
Do you want to go a bit more? Or do you want
to? I mean, I think I'd like to.
Because I got another question.
Yeah, keep going.
I was going to say, so we've obviously like spent about an hour deterring people away. Do you ever think what's the scenario when they say, all right, this might be for you?
I think it's very clear. I think I've always said this. It's a really, really easy one-liner. It's like, okay, is the risk of taking steroids gonna elevate my life to a new level? And what that means is, like, your physique to a new level when you can compete at high levels. And, you know, is competing your dream? Do you love competing more than anything? Then, okay, fine, like, do your thing. Number two, is it going to accelerate your business to a new level and take that life to a higher point? Again, I think we've kind of discussed that. And we don't think it's possible. We don't think it's necessarily. But it could be. And then three, yeah, I guess, is your genetics there, and have you dedicated your life to this thing that we call bodybuilding? And then providing you've done all the due diligence, I think more power to you. You, what do you reckon?
Very similar. I think sometimes I often wonder, like, how hard that decision of, you know, are your genetics good enough is. I think it's probably quite easy for us to tell, but I'm not so sure whether people themselves can tell, because they'll often have yes men around them, you know, like everyone's mum tells them they're the best type of thing. And I think that's where the importance of a coach can come in. And I think it's a hard conversation to have with some people, and I often think, if we did turn down everyone who did bodybuilding, you're not good enough, don't take steroids, would there be bodybuilding? You know, because really, if you look at like the Olympia, those are the only good ones. Right? It's 20 people, 25 people. Yeah. Not only good ones, I mean that with the most respect possible, because there's some incredible physiques out there, but they're the, you know, when you
crop.
Yeah, and I think, well, that's, you know, it's very, very difficult to turn someone down because of that. I think that's the moral issue that I struggle with. Yeah,
I think it's clearer than that, and I've always been a bit. I guess my perspective has changed on this. I've always been like, if you're not going to be, you know, the one of the very best. Why are you bothering? Actually, I'm now more. It's probably a bit more of a like stoic sort of perspective on it. And actually, if you absolutely love something, and it's not actively hurting anyone else, like maybe that's your decision to make, and just make sure you find someone that supports that for the right reasons. Because just because it's the same for me. Like, just because I'm not going to be Mr. Olympia doesn't mean I can't be at the Olympia or at the top of pro shows, which will still make me feel great. And I still feel like I'm doing something really cool, for want of a better word. So yeah, I think I really do think it comes down to have you naturally dedicated your life to bodybuilding, and do you think that anabolics are worth the risk for you? And if they are, then I think that's okay. Another question actually is, when it comes to coaching, I don't ever think that a coach should instigate someone to take anabolics. Ever.
No, encourage or discourage. It's just like, it's your decision.
It's absolutely it needs to be driven by the client. The topic, I think, needs to be broached by the client. If the coach broaches the topic, it should be like very much to say, would you think about this? If they've already proven themselves. I think I get absolutely horrified when like I hear of stories of clients going to a new coach and they're like, I want to prep, and it's like, well, are you going to be on anabolics then? Yeah. I'm just thinking, what are you doing, man? That is purely doing that for your business game, which is disgusting. And unfortunately, you've probably been educated in the wrong places if you're doing that to clients. That's not a decision for you to make.
No.
It's a very watered down version of turning off or turning on someone's like life support. Yeah. You're actively making them more unhealthy.
If you put someone on a cycle for 16 weeks, 20 weeks, a harsh one for a prep, they may never like recover hormonally again, even if they don't compete. And just come off.
And what about the psychological benefits or the psychological impacts that you never hear anything about?
Exactly.
I think that's the really problematic thing. Especially with like, we talk about mental health, like men's mental health going down the pan. There's no way steroids are helping that. Yeah. Definitely a negative impact on men's mental health.
Yeah, I agree.
At some point, eventually, I would say, like you say, once you come off and you have to start dealing with maybe even worse self-worth and stuff like that. That's a really scary thing. I think if you're not prepared for, it can be a real big problem.
Yeah, that's good. Tom, I wonder, like, obviously the way me and Joe transferred over to anabolics and the way our opinions are, do this to if it's something that you absolutely love and want to compete at a high level. As someone who didn't necessarily do that, I guess, like, you didn't ever set out to be like, I want to be a Mr. Olympia,
No.
Like, I wonder how you feel. Like, do you feel the same as us, or do you feel like it should be slightly different?
Do I feel
the same in the sense, like, do you think that you should only do this if you want to compete and be at a high level?
Yeah, just based on my experience as someone that's taken anabolics without wanting to get to a high level.
So is there any element of regret, or
a little bit? Yeah, a little bit, and that regret will only be heightened if I do try and have children later on and I can't. I mean, imagine if I try and have kids in the next couple of years and I can't. Yeah. I'll have huge regret because I don't necessarily want to think about that, and I'll only deal with the situation when it's there. But yeah, I just feel like if you enjoy competing in bodybuilding, then get the most out of natural, and then if you want to go into the bigger leagues like you guys are doing, then look at taking anabolics. But I think, if there's a flicker of doubt or worry, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah. I think if you've got a life, right? If you've got a life outside of bodybuilding, you have a 9-to-5 job that's decent, you've got a family, or a partner that means a lot to you, and you are literally taking anabolics, let's say, to step on a PCA stage, even a Two Bros regional stage, and the upper limit of your aims is to walk away with a PCA trophy. I honestly think stay natural. Yeah, just go and do UK DFBA.
I agree.
Because you're going to get the same gratification from winning or losing that trophy as you are, but with hella less health impacts. Yeah. I just think like that for me is just a no-brainer. Like, that really is.
Yeah. Do you think there's like an age that people should start should not do it?
I think there's a training age. I think if you've again, I come back to that word of dedication. If you've dedicated your life to training and eating and recovering properly, for, I don't know, It's very hard.
Even that is a hard number, isn't it? Because you got the likes of like
people train for 5 years like shit.
Team 3DMJ, and you look at those guys that have been and are still putting tissue on a yearly basis, but I'm talking grams.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? I'm talking like 200 grams of tissue.
Yeah.
But what is there such thing as I think it's 4 or 5 years maybe, and then that's training.
It's very difficult because you'll have that like initial. You start and you're at 0. You have that initial like kind of influx of muscle as you start, and then you get that 4 or 5 year mark, and it's just like it's like a 2-degree incline.
Yeah,
and you just like you get those little small marginal gains. Granted, the gains are a little bit bigger if you use anabolics. I only ask because I often think about people like C-Bum, and I think he must have been 17, and he can't have been training for 5 years, like from 12.
He was natty when he was 18.
When he was 18.
Yeah.
He must have started when he was 18 then, or 19.
I don't know when he started, but he posted a picture of him a while ago playing volleyball naturally on the beach.
Sick.
18, and he looks sick. And he said I was natural here, which says it all, doesn't it? Like I say, you don't need to be C-Bum, but you're already going to have a pretty good idea of how good you might be.
Like Lee
naturally.
Priest. You've seen Lee Priest when he was a kid, like teenager, competing at like 14,
Jacked.
looking bigger than I was at 110. I'm thinking, what? Yeah. That's all right. But then even C-Bum, I watched a video of his yesterday. I was like, oh, this is where I carry around my hoodie because some days I feel skinny. You think, oh, come on.
We all suffer with it, man.
You C-Bum, come on now. Hold the mirror up, man.
More muscle, more problems is what I say.
Yeah.
Damn right. That's so true. Yeah.
That is true because I'm now like, I inspire to be like Brad Pitt Snatched-esque.
Yeah.
Like I want to be ripped and shredded and tattoos and just... Do you know what I mean? Whereas like, I want to be quick and fast and agile. I don't want to be slow and like, oh. Whereas back then when I was like chasing 110 kilos, I was like, oh, I loved it. I thought, yeah, fucking big dorm. And I'm like, nah, I can't do nothing with it, man. You're big, you can't do nothing with it. You can do a circuit. You can do like 4 rounds on the bag looking like that. No chance.
45 seconds maybe.
Even yesterday at boxing, because I did shoulders on Tuesday or Monday, I couldn't do nothing yesterday.
God's gone.
My arms were fucked, and I was like, this is so annoying.
Yeah.
I'm getting more kick out of pad work than I am in the gym at the moment. So it definitely does switch the mindset.
Yeah, 100%. I think what you said about that, like, if you have any perception that gaining more muscle, unless it's for the purpose of you need to be bigger to win a show, like I promise you, it's not going to bring you any happiness or satisfaction in life. If it's a never-ending pursuit of more, it's endless. It's an endless pursuit of more. You will never be satisfied. We've all seen that picture of the guy on the bike looking at the guy in the car, looking at the guy in the Ferrari, looking at the guy in the boat, looking at the guy in the heli. It's the same with bodybuilding. You could draw that exact same thing.
Having said that, I think it's important you go through it though, in order to truly for you to affirm whether this is me or not. Do you know what I mean? It's like the money thing. I remember, I think it's important to be a bit of a materialistic arsehole. So you are in that position whereby, right, I hated it, me earning X amount of money and I could buy this and buy that and I hated it. Or imagine if you start doing that and you loved it, you thrive in that environment. So I think it's key to go through it. I think it's very important because I can certainly look back on my bodybuilding / anabolic and financial career and look when I was earning 15, 20 grand a month and go, I was miserable, mate. I couldn't even do anything with the money. And instead I'd use it as maybe I've ignored someone, so I just buy them a materialistic good and plaster them with a bag. It's stupid. Same as the size thing. Continually chasing size. Get to a point where, well, you know, Callum was like, oh, imagine if we'd what we'd look at like 120 kilos. I'm like, nah, fuck that, I've done that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Whereas
you would look good though.
Yeah, imagine 120 kilo classic cycles. Oof. But like, even you saying that, I'm like, nah, I don't. That does nothing for me.
That's good though. That's
absolutely good. Does nothing for me. I'd rather get in a ring with someone and bang than walk about 120 kilos. But I do think it's important for you to go through it because then you're also going to live in that what if mindset, and that's the worst possible thing.
That was definitely a thing that triggered me. I sat down. I remember went on one trip. It was one last trip before I knew I was going to start, and I needed to kind of nail down. Spoke to my mum. I said, "Look, I'm thinking of doing this." And granted, the naive mum maybe changed her mind now, but she was like, "I just think you'll regret it if you don't go for it." Because mine was like, "I want to try steroids." Mine was like, "I want to be the best in the world. I want to chase greatness. I want to leave a legacy." And she said, I think you'll regret it. And it was that kind of what if moment where I've had a lot of what if moments, and I've taken the easy route, the comfortable route. And I didn't want to make me pursuing my it was one of the first dream. It's the first dream I ever had. It's the first and only dream that I've ever had of chasing greatness. I've never had any ambitions or motivation to be a director of a director of a company. I was going to say work my way up the chain in London, and nothing like that ever came into my brain. The only motivation I've had is this, and I didn't want to have a what if. And if you can resonate with that, all right, you can ask yourself the question, you can make that decision yourself. But
yeah, I actually think when it comes to it, it should be a really easy decision for a lot of people. And I think, unfortunately, the people that probably won't listen to this, which is always the way, isn't it? The person that most needs to read the book won't even know the book exists.
Yeah.
But I think there's a few prerequisites, and that is you're not going out every weekend. You're not even going out every month, to be honest. Like, your day revolves around training. You are meticulous with your nutrition. You hit your macros 95% of the time. And you're just absorbed in bodybuilding. Like, you just love it to bits. And if all of them are a yes, and also, to be honest, from my perspective, you've competed naturally once and you still loved it, then I think it's, like I said, if you've done the due diligence, and it's up to you. But I honestly would discourage anyone who's done anything but that.
Yeah.
I really would. I think you need to have all the bases covered before you even think about it. Yeah.
I agree
too.
Hope that was helpful. Maybe we'll do another one in a while, because I imagine that some questions will flood in. But
yeah, what's the best first cycle, bro?
Yeah, there'll be so many of that on the YouTube, especially if you put Anabolics in the title.
Oh, we will. Clickbait up.
Why you should never take steroids.
Yeah, that's
Coming from 3 people who take steroids.
Yeah.
3 skagheads.
3 junkies.
steroids, mate.
3 junkies tell you why not to take steroids. Good night.
Good night.
Cheers in.